Hey, friend, Church D coming at you once again. Thanks for tuning into What Does It Take to Win? First off, I want to start off by saying I forgot to announce that I dropped an album. So at the top of May 2019, I dropped a jazz instrumental album entitled The Cactus Bare Minimum 2.0. You could find that on every digital outlet, all platforms. It's on iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Pandora might play it as well. You can just go ahead and look for it. Type my name, Church D. And yeah, look for it. You'll find me. Show your support. Purchase it if you love it. If not, just keep streaming it so I can get those coins. But let's get back to business. On this episode, I wanted to address the importance of having a solid foundation. Once again, I have 4 points to go through. I'm not going to keep you very long. I just want to drop them off and give you something to think about as you go through your day-to-day activities. So the first point is when things get tough, you won't crumble. The second point is you'll survive the storm and you'll come back even stronger. The third point is you won't be easily swayed by anything. And the final point is you'll be more reliable if you have a solid foundation. So let's think about this and let's do a little bit of, let's examine the situation of having a solid foundation. So let's look at some things that I consider to be a solid foundation. Number one, friends and family. I look at that as like your number one solid foundation because that's where the majority of your influence comes from. There's a saying that goes, birds of the same feather flock together. So whoever you're around on a more consistent basis or just whoever you interact with the most, chances are they may have a heavier influence on you. Your family, that's your upbringing. So let's start right there. From day one, when you first enter preschool or kindergarten, your mind is somewhat molded as to how you will interact with other individuals or how you'll be as an individual based off of the foundation that your family has already set. So you'll have, for example, one student that goes off to kindergarten. They might be that type of person who wants to interact with everybody and who'll sit down and just talk with everyone and they have no issues doing that. Then you'll have the other student that may be a bit more withdrawn, just kind of sit around and observe and say, okay, should I talk to this person? Should I avoid this person? Can we be friends? Is this person going to hurt me? Am I going to hurt them? They're the more observant individual. And the reason for that is the foundation that has already been set due to their family. Okay. So another solid foundation is your faith or your belief system. And this also ties into the third foundation that I had, the third point for this foundation, which is morals. So faith and morals, they kind of go hand in hand. Your faith or your belief system basically gives you instructions on how you should be living your life and what it is you need to be doing in order to stay on the right track or the right path. And lastly, I look at myself, or we can look at ourselves as a foundation. And it ties into the morals and the belief or faith system because those two aspects influence who we are. Once we're comfortable with who we are as individuals, our foundation is set. Okay, so chew on that for a little bit. Now let's get into the 4 points as to why it's important to have a solid foundation. Point number one, you won't crumble when things get tough. So let's say you're in a situation that's less than fortunate, but you really need to stay in the situation just a little bit longer because you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And once you tough it out, you'll just be like, you're reaping your harvest pretty much. You'll be reaping your harvest. So if you have a solid foundation, you'll be able to get yourself through it, or they can coach you through it. Your friends and your family, they can, offer words of encouragement or sort of show you that, hey, yeah, you can make it. So here's an example. Imagine working at a job or whatever it is you do to bring in money. Imagine working there and they bring somebody around you who just absolutely stresses your entire life. I mean, they make it so dreadful for you to come in and do your job that you just considered quitting. But imagine the person who's above you, your supervisor, your boss, whatever, Imagine they tell you, okay, in, I don't know, 6 to 8 months, we're going to promote you and you're going to be making quadruple what you're making right now. But you have to stick it out and tough it out with this individual that you absolutely can't stand. If you don't have a solid foundation, you'll crumble. You'll say, you know what, this isn't for me. I can't take this. I'm going to leave. I'm going to jump ship and move on. And that could set you back even longer. Or let's say you want to buy a home and I don't know what it is. Maybe your employment history requires you to work an additional 3 to 6 months in order to purchase a home. But this person here is making your life miserable and you don't know if you can take the mental stress day in and day out. This is when you need to have your solid foundation, your friends and family, your faith, your morals, and then ultimately it's going to boil down to yourself. Sometimes you got to talk yourself through and say, I can do this. This person is just breath. You know, they're flesh and blood just like me. So they're not going to ruin or control my life. Okay. And this leads up to my next point. You'll be able to survive the storm. You'll come back even stronger. So let's say you tough it out. You're at your job. This person has been on your case. I'm talking about sending millions of emails like within 30 minutes at a time, going to tell your boss on you and say, oh, you're not doing this the correct way, and just really applying pressure that's unnecessary. Let's say you stick it out, you tough it out, you stay there and you deal with it. And then you get to the end. You come to the end of that 6 to 8 month period. Not only do you come back stronger, you have a promotion. Also, let's look at it this way. Say now you've reached a certain level and you've outgrown your surroundings and it's time for you to move on to a higher level and, you know, you'll be assuming more responsibility, but at the same time, you'll be getting a whole lot more money and better opportunities. Let's say you get to this next level and you have to deal with somebody who's just like the previous person you dealt with at your other place of employment or whatever you were doing to make money. Now, you understand how to interact with this type of individual. It won't bother you as much. I don't know if I should use myself as an example, but I guess I will. I mean, hey, I have a lot of stories to tell. I've gone through some pretty interesting experiences, but I had to deal with something similar to that. As a matter of fact, I was working somewhere with a supervisor that was less than pleasant, to say the least. And so eventually I had outgrown that place of work and I moved on to somewhere else. And the people that I was working with at the new place, you know, they would sort of come to me and say, hey, how do you work with this individual? They're just so miserable and, you know, they give me a headache all the time. And to me, I was like, this person, they're not miserable. I had to deal with something like probably 10 or 20 times much worse than that. But because I didn't crumble, that prepared me to, you know, that actually had me come back stronger. I survived it. I came back stronger and it prepared me for the next level. So anything else that was even remotely familiar to that person's personality, I was just like, whatever, man, that doesn't bother me. So that's a little bit on, you know, my personal experience. But let's move on to the third point. And it talks about you won't be easily swayed if you have a solid foundation. There's a saying that goes, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So I say this to say you don't want to be put in positions where anybody could pull you here, there, and everywhere. You want to be solid. You want to know that, yes, this is the path I'm supposed to be on. This is the path that I'm going to travel. Whatever you say, I might listen to it and take it into consideration, but I have to carefully examine it to make sure that you're not leading me astray. I always talk about careers and finance and making money. So I'm going to use that as another example. Suppose you're offered 2 jobs and one job is perfect for you. Everything lines up with the goals that you had set from years back, probably when you were like a teenager. It lines up perfectly. But this other job looks really appealing and all of your friends work there. However, it doesn't line up with anything that you want to do. All of your friends, well, let's not say friends, let's say colleagues, because friends and family are considered your foundation and you would want to be around them. But these people, they're colleagues, they're not really your friends. They're just people who will talk to you and ask you to do certain things for their benefit. They're more so users. So let's call them colleagues or associates. So yeah, let's say you have 2 job offers. One is with your associates. The job is super easy, but it's not anything that lines up with your goals. And the other one is a little bit more strict, but it's everything that's going to help propel you to your destiny and where you want to be in life. So you have to make that decision, and you have to kind of put your foot down and say, okay, I'm not going to be easily swayed. Just because it looks appealing over there doesn't mean it actually will help me in the long run. You know, something just popped in my head. Let's talk about that as it pertains to a relationship. Let's say, and this is not the relationship podcast. I'm in no way, shape, or form a relationship coach. I don't really know a whole lot about that. I kind of watch, and just make sure I can make logical choices. So let's say you're dating somebody and you guys are going strong. There's like no beef. You have your arguments here and there, but who doesn't, right? So let's say you guys are dating strong, y'all love one another, and you're making plans on being married. But then you have people coming into your ear and just talking and saying a lot of negative things like, oh, you guys should do this. If this doesn't happen at this time frame, you got to do that because such and such. If the 2 of you guys don't have a solid foundation, then those voices, that outside negativity, can just kind of snake its way in and break you guys apart. So that's important, as it pertains to a relationship. The two of you guys should develop a strong foundation so that any negativity that's going to try to seep in through the cracks isn't going to completely destroy the relationship. So that's my little spiel on relationships. Let's get to the 4th and final point, and which is the importance of having a solid foundation. You become more reliable. There's probably not too many things that are more important than being reliable. And the reason why I say that is if you have a job that needs to be done and you want to call somebody to do it, you're not going to call somebody that you can't rely on. If somebody says, hey, I have an event coming up and I need a piano player to play for an hour and 30 minutes, and we're going to pay them X amount of money and it starts at this time and we're going to have this many people, they're not going to call somebody who's going to show up late, number one, and who's not going to be able to play for the entire hour and 30 minutes. They're going to call somebody who can do that. So having a solid foundation will make you more reliable. It's almost like putting cement in the ground. In fact, that's what a lot of foundations are. It's not cement, you put that in the ground and then you sit the house on top, right? I'm not into carpentry. I don't really know how to build a house, but it's something along those lines. So once you're like deeply rooted and you have that foundation, your reliability it goes up and people will want to work with you. You'll have more opportunity if you're reliable. So let's just do a quick recap of the importance of having a solid foundation, the 4 points. Point number 1, you won't crumble when things get tough. Point number 2, you'll survive the storm and you'll come back even stronger. So once you get to that next level, things won't even faze you. Number 3, you're not easily swayed. And point number 4, reliability. You'll be more reliable if you have a solid foundation. What do we consider solid foundations? Friends and family, your faith or belief system, morals, and ultimately yourself. So when challenges come, your solid foundation will remind you that, hey, yes, I can overcome this. It's not the end of me. Thank you for all of your time today. Thanks for tuning in to this podcast. I hope it blessed you. I hope it encouraged you. I hope it inspired you. Hey, if you like it, be sure to click the share button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find me on YouTube at Church D. Check out my website. I'll put the link in the description below. And until next time, thanks for tuning in.